West Virginia led late, but ultimately, the Texas Tech defense was too much for the Mountaineers. West Virginia had opportunity after opportunity, but could not get any offense going from anyone not named Taz Sherman. The rebounding problems continue, while the lack of a true player at the 5 position proved costly once again. Now sitting at 2-4 in conference play, West Virginia will have their sights set on Oklahoma on Wednesday. This is the BlueandGoldSports.com podcast. What's going on? Wesley Shoemaker back here with Aaron Parker and Quinn Burkett on the BlueandGoldSports.com podcast following a West Virginia defeat at Texas Tech. The Mountaineers hung with Texas Tech early, eventually losing by 13 on the road. Mountaineers now sit at 2-4 in conference play. And there's a lot to unpack from this game. I think first off, you have to unpack with West Virginia struggled again finding another scorer besides Taz Sherman. Obviously, this year it's been Sean McNeil and Taz Sherman. But for me, the biggest thing was Taz Sherman seemed to carry this team. And when he wasn't going offensively, this offense wasn't going. I think another part is the turnovers, a lot of unforced errors leading to Texas Tech points tonight. And that just can't happen. Aaron, biggest takeaway from today in the loss to Texas Tech?
I got WVU's lack of rebounding. Kind of saw it coming with Texas Tech's physicality, but 15 offensive boards for Texas Tech, and then they got 20 defensive. That's just not going to get it done. The positioning wasn't good. I guess there's a couple of times where maybe Texas Tech went over the back or something, but WVU was just not getting it done on the boards. Not much help. I don't think Bridges and Cottrell were getting in there and getting the boards they needed to get, so rebounding.
Gwen?
Yeah, I think it was just Texas Tech's offensive surge in general. West Virginia turned it over 17 times, but when you have players leave like Matt McClung, Kyler Edwards, and Micah Peavy, and you still have the production that you do with Terrence Shannon Jr. He was obviously the biggest scorer today, and he broke a number of ties just because it was such a back and forth game. But I think between Terrence Shannon and Opener, Texas Tech's going to have a really strong offense moving forward in Big 12 play. Yeah.
Going back to the offensive part, I also think that West Virginia needs to be better. I think their baseline out-of-bounds sets sucked. I think they have to find something on the inside, because if you don't, you can just lock up McNeil and Sherman on the outside, and then it becomes a 3-on-5 if your next three can beat you. And when you have your leading scorer besides them, Malik Curry and Jalen Bridges, in foul trouble, it really doesn't hurt. Obviously, fouls, I think, were a big part of today's game. Combined 50 fouls between both teams, but Texas Tech shot 36 free throws. West Virginia shot only 22. Huggins, the Mountaineers obviously can't be happy with that kind of whistle. But Aaron, what do you think that the Mountaineers should do if they find themselves in a situation where they have their big men and their whole inside front court in foul trouble?
Yeah, you gotta get Sean involved. McNeil, he didn't have a very good game today. Only 7, shot the ball 2 of 7 from the field. He was really absent, to be honest with you. So he's got to get more looks. The entry pass to the low block is just not good. It's all around.
It was horrible today.
It's all around. Cottrell, but also some guard passes. I think Malik Curry made one good pass to Polycap, but most everything going to Polycap, Kerrigan, it was just not theirs.
Yeah, it seems to me when they're trying to get that pass to Polycap or Kerrigan down low, they're just leading them too far. They're going too far. They either get them under the basket where they can't get a look, or it just goes too far and goes out of bounds, which it's just not how you can run offense. And Quinn, I know West Virginia had this game within reach for the majority of the game. Second half, they led 6:21 left, I think it was. Taz Sherman hits a 3, West Virginia goes up 1. But what do you think was the biggest X factor going down the stretch that led Texas Tech to be able to come out with the 12-point victory, Quinn?
Yeah, I think it's going back to turnovers, like I think you talked about earlier, Wesley. West Virginia turned over 17, which is right on average for Texas Tech, as they turned it over 16 and a half times. I think just their offensive possession overall was just they're way over West Virginia. like you said, Sherman hit a three with about 6 minutes left, but only like 2 or 3 minutes later, Texas Tech grew their lead to a 9-point lead. That was mainly because of Shannon, and their movement was just way too much for West Virginia's defense today.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think a lot of this movement's coming from West Virginia's lack of ball pressure. Earlier in the year, we saw Kedrian Johnson really go get after opposing point guards, and recently it's become more of the Malik Curry show than anything. Malik Curry was in foul trouble all day today, but he still had 5 more minutes played than Keedy. And I just think if West Virginia is going to be successful, it starts with ball pressure at the top. And I don't know what they do if they can't keep Kedrian Johnson and Malik Curry in games.
I agree. Malik, there's a stretch where he couldn't even get on the floor. I agree with your point, Wesley. I don't think Kedrian Johnson has been much of a factor lately. He had one nice bucket earlier in the game, I think his first half, but 4 turnovers, a couple of them were unforced. Malik's been playing good, but 2 for 7 from the field, and he couldn't stay out of foul trouble. It's just that wasn't going to get done today, especially with Kedrian Johnson not picking it up as much as Curry.
The one positive I will say for Malik Curry is he's been lights out at the free throw line recently. Hate to possibly jinx him going forward, but he went 7 of 7 tonight. Seems like he's almost automatic when he gets there. And a lot of Malik Curry's game is just getting downhill and getting to the bucket and drawing contact. And I think if he provides that consistency at the free throw line, that's just as good as offense for West Virginia. Now, going to you, Quinn, free throws and fouls, big story of today's game. Obviously, Texas Tech's length seemed to provide problems at times, as West Virginia couldn't really get the ball to the middle. Going forward, Quinn, what do you think this team has to work on if they're going to make a statement and try and win some more Big 12 games here?
Yeah, I think they need to hit free throws. I think Huggins has always said that's a big thing. That's like the easiest thing to do.
I mean, they only missed 4 free throws tonight. I mean, that's about pretty good if we're being honest.
It is, and it's showing a lot of progression because Huggins teams haven't always been like that. They haven't always been the best free throw shooting teams, but they did shoot it really well tonight. I mean, on the inside of West Virginia's offense, you're still getting some production. It's not always just from the same people. Dude, like you were saying, Polycat, I mean, he had a dunk with about 12 minutes left that brought the Mountaineers within 1 point. And that made a really close game. And then Jalen Bridges, he had a couple of threes, which is pretty interesting for him to do. He's done that before. He can go on the outside and shoot the ball. But I think if West Virginia wants to continue to have success, they're obviously going to need to stop turning the ball over, but they're also going to want continued production from Polycat and Bridges in specific in the front court.
Yeah, and I still think Isaiah Cottrell is the biggest X factor for me going forward. If he can get it going, this team's a lot different. Game balls. I'm gonna go Terrence Shannon on Texas Tech. He had himself a night. Went 3 for 7 from 3, 7 to 12 from the field, and he seemed late to just find a big shot when they needed it. Not really going to give one to West Virginia. I think Taz, he was close to getting one, but I think the 6 turnovers is really just not what West Virginia needs from him. Aaron, who you got for game balls?
I think the obvious one is Terrence Shannon with 23, 7 of 12, and he hit about 3 threes down the stretch. Like Quinn said, about 6 minutes to go, Taz gave the Mountaineers the lead, but then, Texas Tech scores 12 points without even before you can even look up, and Shannon got most of that done. So I'd give him the ball, and O'Banner was also good. He showed his post moves, scoring in the mid-range and some jump hooks, and he was just way better than all the bigs for WVU. So those 2.
What about you, Quinn?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious you have to take Shannon and opener, but I think for West Virginia, Curry, like we've talked about a number of times, getting hot at the right time. It's full-on Big 12 season right now, and the fact that he's been able to have double digits against like the best teams in the conference, I think that says a lot about Huggins' trust in him. and his ability to take the ball and make some plays in West Virginia's offense currently. And I think we'll continue to see that down Big 12 play.
Yeah, I think Curry getting going is a really good sign. West Virginia's been searching for that third scorer, but now they need to get their first and second scorers going too. You've got your third scorer in Curry. You've got your third scorer possibly in JB, but you got to get Taz and Sean going on a more consistent basis. I know post-game Huggins, he was frustrated with his team. He was frustrated with his team's offense. He felt like his team didn't run the sets that they had practiced. He said, we didn't run what we practiced we were going to run, and I went over this 2 days in practice. We went over it before the game. We went over it at every timeout, and they still never ran what I asked them to run. This frustration, I think, is just coming from Huggins kind of searching. He's searching for offense. You score 65 points against a team on the road that's ranked in the top 20. That gives you a chance to win, and you just can't give up 78. But you also got to run better offense. West Virginia shot 40% from the field, but I feel like a lot of times they were turning the ball over. They were getting bad possessions where they'd be forcing shots up late. Aaron, what do you think of Huggins' comments, and what do you make of that going forward?
I agree with him. There's no way they ran all the sets that Huggs and Harrison and those guys went over in practice this past week. Because in the game, and as a Mountaineer fan watching that, you're shocked to death if somebody besides Taz Sherman is scoring the basketball. Obviously, Sean was a no factor. He couldn't really get a shot today. I guess credit Texas Tech's defense, but guys like JB and those guys, Kedrian Johnson, is just the offense is not there. And frankly, it didn't even look like it was close to there today. So, getting other guys besides Taz. You got to get JB and Sean going consistently, because there's some games where Sean's going to score 25, 26, but then we can't have nights where he's scoring 4 and 6. It's just not going to get it done.
Yeah, I think the inconsistency for McNeil is what's been surprising. It was supposed to be the him and Taz show this year, and a lot of times it's been either just the Sean show or just the Taz show.
Yes.
Quinn, what do you think West Virginia should do? Do you think they should panic? They are now 2-4 in conference. They got Oklahoma and then Arkansas on the road next Saturday. What do you think of this team? We're almost a third of the way through Big 12 schedule.
I think this team has shown flashes of who they can really be at their best, at least. Against Baylor earlier this week, there were points where they were playing top-notch defense and they would turn the ball over and they would move the ball on offense, which is the biggest thing that the Mountaineers need to do right now, move it in and out. I don't think it's time to panic right now for the Mountaineers. You still have you still have a good amount of Big 12 play left. It's mid-January right now. If you can get, like you were saying, Wesley, if you can get your three consistent scorers on pace, you can maybe find a fourth in there. Not on every single night, but if you can ball movement, ball pressure, get in people's faces, especially against any Big 12 team that can shoot the ball.
Yeah, I agree, and I think going forward, this team's just gonna have to take better care of the basketball and try and find more scoring on the offensive end. Anything else from either of you guys?
I think Oklahoma is a huge game. You got, as a WVU fan, you want to see them get Oklahoma at home. You want to see them come out and be as inspired as they've been all year, following these last 2 or 3 losses. They've been tough. A lot of them have been on the road, but you got to get Oklahoma, and just got to hope that they come out inspired.
Quinn?
I think you just need to watch West Virginia scores like we've talked about and make sure we're getting pressure on the ball. Turnovers, we need to limit turnovers. That's been a big thing for sure. So I think limiting turnovers can lead to more winning, especially in the Big 12.
Well, that will wrap it up today. West Virginia loses 13, 78-65 in Lubbock, Texas. Mountaineers will return to action next Wednesday night against Oklahoma before they travel to Arkansas in the Big 12 SEC Challenge. We'll get you guys a preview coming up either Monday, Tuesday, in that range. But until then, we thank you for listening, and this is the BlueandGoldSports.com podcast.